Joining us now, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, as well as the Intelligence Committee. Have you heard anything one way or the other, Senator, that causes you to decide your vote on Chuck Hagel?
Well, let me begin by saying that Chuck Hagel's service to our country, particularly in Vietnam, is something all of us admire, and I don't think you'll find any debate about that. But he's being nominated for one of the most important cabinet positions in our country, the Secretary of Defense. And I've stated long ago that I've been deeply disturbed by his previous comments and positions with regards to sanctions on Iran, with regards to direct negotiations with North Korea, obviously statements he's made about Israel. These are not the kinds of statements and the kind of positions that I want to see our Secretary of Defense have. And these are big, big problems. And so, for those reasons, I just don't believe I'll be able to support his nomination, especially after his testimony in the last hour here has really not said anything that addresses those concerns to my satisfaction.
Israel attacked that convoy. The Iranians as well as the Syrians are threatening war on Israel. If that should erupt, what should the United States do?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't want to speculate about what may or may not happen militarily. Obviously, it's a very sensitive topic. But let me just say this. I think the United States has a clear obligation to stand with Israel as our ally, to provide them material support for their own defense. Israel is more than capable of defending themselves. They would be the first to tell you that, but they do need our help and our assistance in different ways, and we need to stand prepared and make it very clear that just as Iran has said that an attack on Syria is an attack on Iran, we should be very clear that an attack on Israel is an attack on our interests and on America, and I for one, am prepared to say that.
Let's switch gears now to immigration reform. It's been a front and center item this week. One member of a bipartisan group of 8 senators who unveiled their proposals for immigration reform this week. You are. The president then came out with his own policy. Do you see the two meshing?
Well, I see significant differences. Obviously, they're talking about the same topic, and there are some things that are the same, but there are some critical points that are different. For me, and for many of the members of the group that outline these principles, in fact, one of the key parts of these principles is a very clear requirement that before anybody get a green card, not only do they have to wait behind everyone that's applied before them the right way, but security measures, particularly border security, must happen. Because these promises have been made in the past about border security, and they've never been kept. And if we can't find a way to guarantee that, this bill is not going to work. The president didn't mention that at all. Another thing the president didn't mention was a guest worker program. Without a guest worker program for future immigration, we're going to be right back here again in 5 to 10 years with a couple million people more who are undocumented. The president didn't mention that either, and that's clearly part of our principles. If those two things are not part of a final product, not only can I not support it, but I don't think it stands a chance.
So many of these immigrants come into this country hoping to make it to the middle class. I know you've been talking about the middle class a lot lately, and you have more work to do in that regard. How do you propose, I guess, that this nation build a thriving middle class?
Well, the only way we're going to have a thriving middle class is free enterprise and limited government. That's what makes us different from the rest of the world. Every country has rich people. What makes America different is that we have a middle class, which is the result of a country where people have the freedom to invest their hard-earned dollars, and when it works, it creates jobs and opportunities for others. That's the direction for us to go. The direction the president's trying to take us is in the direction of the failed ideas that have been tried everywhere. In fact, the failed ideas of countries that people come here to get away from. The people immigrate here to get away from countries where the government dominates the economy. And so that's not the direction for us to go. We have a good argument to make to people who are trying to make it, that big government crushes the middle class. It doesn't help the middle class.
But as you know, the president was reelected on an agenda that seems to include more government intervention in the economy, more regulations.
Well, the president, let me tell you this, I bet you the president wouldn't give his inaugural speech before the election. I bet you he wouldn't say some of the things he said in the inauguration before the voting took place. The bottom line is that for the last 4.5 years, the president has tried to portray himself as a centrist who believes that government should be limited. Now that he's won his second and final re-election, he no longer pretends to be that. He is an unabashed believer that more government is the right answer, and I look forward to the debate because I don't think that's one he can win. He doesn't have history on his side, he doesn't have economics on his side, and we're beginning to see proof. In the last 3 months of last year, the American economy shrunk, and it shrunk under this president because of his policies.
Everyone is looking at you as a possible presidential contender 4 years from now. Are you thinking about it?
No, what I'm thinking about is doing my job here. And as I've always said, if you do a good job at the job you have right now, you'll always have all kinds of opportunities to do things perhaps you never even imagined. So that's what I'm focused on right now. I get paid every 2 weeks to do this job. I'm blessed to have it, and I hope I can do a good job for the people of Florida and the people of this country.
Florida Senator Marco Rubio, good to have you on. Thank you.